porting mobile experiences to other platforms doesn't always work. When playing on a mobile game, it's as if you're constantly playing against the clock. With 10 minutes before a meeting, okay, I'll play a bit. Soulvars from developer Gino Labo emphasizes this sense of time through its fast-paced systems. However, bringing that experience to other platforms creates different expectations. Thankfully, the speed and presentation of this once mobile game exclusive finds a nice home within this port, but some of the streamlined systems don't translate all too well. Before we get into the review, we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters for making this possible. Please take a second to check out patreon.com/noisypixel to support independent game journalism. Thanks for watching. When you begin Soulvars, you will not know who your character is or what your mission is. You're thrusted into tutorial battles where you'll learn the surface level basics of the game's mechanics, and then you're off on your own. You'll learn more about the missions and the characters who join you along the way, but during my time playing, I never really had an idea who I was or what I was doing. All I knew is I was kicking anyone's ass who stood in my way. Evidently, you play as a soul bearer, basically humans with alternate souls who fight against the invading dominators. You play as Yakumo, who works for the Dominator Disposal Organization and is tasked with clearing out the city of all threats with the help of a few friends. If I'm being honest, the writing handles character introductions terribly. I never felt attached to the mission at hand, and when the characters left the party, I would simply shrug and move on. There's an attempt to bringing an antagonist into the story, but I had no idea who he was or how he even knows these characters. Surprisingly, there's an encyclopedia that outlines everything you need to know about the world as terms come up. So if you really want to know what's going on, I suggest looking there. Still, I wish they used the opportunity of this port to improve the overall story, given how cool these characters are. Outside of that, the game is mostly all about speed, and you'll be timed from the very beginning. Time will be added up from your first mission, and actions that you take, either by escaping a dungeon or resting, will also add to your time. I didn't pay too much attention to this, but I did my best to move as fast as possible through the levels. There's an overview map of all the locales you can visit. Dungeons are made up of squares that you can swiftly move through, but they do become maze-like, so understanding the layout of a dungeon is important. Without much work, I seem to always end up where I needed to be. There are some gimmicks in dungeons, such as switches and interactable objects, but they don't become overly complicated to explore. While searching through the dungeons, you'll encounter combat, which triggers a turn-based encounter. Actions require AP to utilize cards. I can guarantee, even after the tutorial, you'll have no idea what you're doing. I suggest spending some time understanding the icons on the cards, but you can easily just brute force your knowledge of the system by trying new things over a period of time. I kind of enjoyed figuring out all the battle nuances on my own and how to properly build decks, create combos, and get the most out of this equipment. This also includes a system where characters can transform into their soul selves to unleash a few powerful attacks. This comes with the added benefit of healing after transformation, so it can play into a strategy. As cards are used, you'll need to suffer damage to redraw from your discard pile. It's an interesting system that forces you to think about your moves and your choices. Combos are created by using 2 cards that create a unique ability for each character. This is likely the only way to do any real damage to bosses, but it also requires you to pull the correct combinations of cards and have the AP to use multiple cards. Everything is about speed in this game, but you can still slow down to go into shops and buy items. Further, there are a decent level of equipment customizations for each character that allows you to add modifications to weapons and fine-tune the attack capabilities. There are people to talk to around town, but more often than not, they have nothing important to say. However, you have to talk to them since some of them offer you a side quest, which is organized nicely in the menus so you know what you have to do. The graphics and presentation of Soulvars is nice. I enjoyed the pixelated design of the characters and use of blacks and purples to give the attack animations a more neon aesthetic. The music is also a highlight, with each track being just as catchy as the one before as you navigate different themed areas. The game itself can get pretty long with a runtime of about 8 to 10 hours, which comes with its share of repetitive enemy encounters and gameplay systems, so it's best to play this game in small bites unless you're honing in your speedrunning skills. Soulvars is fast and addictive, but the repetitive nature of gameplay and the limited tutorials make experiencing the best parts of this game more effort than they're worth. It has style and energy to keep your attention for a few moments, but it doesn't last when the character writing and the world building lay in an optional encyclopedia than in the game's story. Still, the game is all about speed and combat. and it delivers in that regard. Noisy Pixel is giving Soulvars a 6 out of 10. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.